Hi, I'm Debbie Nelson with Nixene Publishing. I'm the contributing editor and project manager here in the United States, and we've been doing a series on graphene. Once again, we have our editor-in-chief of the Nixene Journal, Adrian Nixon, here to talk with us about this topic. Hi, Adrian, how are you?
Nice to see you again, Debbie. How are you? I'm very well.
Oh, good to see you too. So today's video is really interesting because we've heard an awful lot about graphene hype. And I wondered if you would just speak to that and kind of give people an idea of what's been going on.
Yeah. Like a lot of new technologies, graphene suffers from what's called the hype cycle. And it's a predictable sequence of events that new technologies go through. And it was probably most popularly articulated by a company called Gartner. They do technology consulting. Can I share my screen, Debbie, and just show you a slide? So let's bring this up and we'll have a look. Share that one. And I'll just move the videos out of the way. There we go. So can you see that all right?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, it just...
So along the bottom here, we've got time, starting off around about 2004, and I'll explain why in a minute. And then the vertical axis, we can call market impact or stuff that's happening and around a particular theme. Now, this is called, some people call it a hype cycle. It's derived from the Gartner hype cycle, but it's actually not a cycle. A cycle assumes that, or implies that something will come back to where it started again in like a circular fashion. This is more a predictable sequence of events, more of a hype curve. So you can see down here at 2004, when graphene was first isolated by Kostya and Andre, that nothing much happened, and then gradually we get the Nobel Prize awarded in 2010, and bang, everything sort of opened out. And from there, once the Nobel Prize had won, then there was a lot of publicity. Everybody expected graphene to be solving all the world's problems, 200 times stronger than steel, world's most electrically conductive material. You can have a look at all the stuff we've done in the previous video and see all the amazing properties that it has. So everybody expected this world-changing material to be around instantly, and also to be available on the scale of rugs and carpets, that sort of thing. But then they found that, oh, it's just black powders. And, when we mix them in with things, it doesn't really do very much. People were learning how to do the technologies, and that's what caused a decline of interest as the properties of graphene didn't meet the expectations that had been raised ridiculously high. And we get what's called the trough of disillusionment down here. Gradually, over time, this disillusionment will persist for a while. And then people really start to work out, oh, now we're figuring out how to use this. So you and I know that there's an organization in Manchester University called the GEIC, the Graphene Engineering Innovation Centre, and other research institutes around the world where they're learning how to actually mix graphene, these black powders, in with various things. All of a sudden, they're finding they can do amazing stuff. And now we're beginning to get what James Baker, the CEO of the GEIC, calls the tipping point, where we start to move out of the trough of disillusionment and people start to accept in the market that this stuff really can do good things. And from there, then we'll find that the graphene gets more and more accepted, but there's still a residual sort of cynicism from the overinflated expectations. And it's also complicated by the fact that we've got two types of graphene. So we've got the graphene nanoplate powders. This is ground up graphite that's been separated into individual nanoplates. But then we've also got the monolayer of chemical vapor deposition graphene, the CVD graphene. And they're on two slightly different trajectories. The powders are coming through first, and then the monolayer graphene is following through secondary. So the hype is very real. It's overinflated expectations that have caused everybody to be rather cynical about graphene, but actually now graphene is beginning to show its promise and is starting to do really amazing things. So we'll start to see now more and more real world applications coming out, and people start getting excited about graphene again. And it's happening just about now. So I'll stop sharing and come back to it. What do you reckon?
Well, I made a note when you were talking about the timeline on the hype and the big expectations over news of a new material.
Yeah.
And doesn't it take quite a while to develop, do research and on new material?
Mm-hmm. But the work's going on already, and we're starting to see some amazing things that are coming out. That's for another video, but
Right.
all the applications. But yes, you're right, that there's a certain amount of inertia in the system at the moment where graphene has got to fight really, really hard to get the attention it deserves. And people aren't paying proper attention because they think, oh no, it's just more and more hype. We've heard it all before, but they haven't. We're seeing that particularly in the UK in the composites industry at the moment. We're hearing from the graphene suppliers that they're hearing a lot of cynicism from people here. I don't know what it is like in the States, maybe a little bit similar, but we're seeing more of a pickup in Australia and Asia, where they're probably because they got exposed to the hype less in the early days. Mm-hmm. And so they're probably more open to just trying this stuff and giving it a go.
I'm wondering if the hype has anything to do with the coincidence, with the timeline kind of coincides with the rise of social media. That's something that I've studied. And I have a chart I wanted to show you.
That's a really interesting idea. Yeah, let's have a look at that chart.
Yeah, because it just made me wonder if this could possibly be related. If you notice here at one of the first to really take off was YouTube, but then Facebook hit. Now Facebook was invented, it was just, established for college students in 2004, 2006. Yeah. It opened up to the public, but it really started becoming much more popular according to this timeline, 2008 going into 2009, which is when I noticed it. And of course it's got the highest trajectory. So I can't help but wonder if this revolutionary material that's being, has all these superlatives, suffered the hype because the media was so instant.
It's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it like that. Tell you what, I think you might have something here. There might be. I don't think it's the only cause, because there'll be a generational thing going on here too. But there's certainly a coincidence with the rise of social media and the hype around graphene as well, particularly around that sort of 2010, 2009 sort of area, and that sort of expectation of almost instant results too. It could almost be, maybe it's not the social media itself, but maybe the investors behind that. If you invest in social media, you get fairly instant returns. If you invest in graphene, it's a while before it comes through because you're into manufacturing and that's a completely different beast. So maybe people's expectations have been raised on the investor side as well. So there could be two things at play here.
Yeah, I think it's something that I really want to look into as well on the.
Yeah, me too. At the moment, it's got what's called face validity. So it's an interesting coincidence. But might be worthwhile taking a longer look into this. Perhaps it's something for a video further down the line when we've done a bit more research. Good find.
Yeah, because hype usually comes by people hearing about something and talking about it. Everybody gets all excited. So how are people getting their information? We kind of have to compare also the decline in newspaper and print, the decline in print versus the rise in digital, and possibly put that into it as well, just to see.
On top of that, we've got this thing that we do with the journal, Debbie, that we always check our sources. So we try to be as trusted a source and have our sources that anybody can check to see what we're saying is real. And a lot of the stuff on social media is impossible to check. And there's a lot of false stuff out there too, which probably makes people a little bit more cynical about what's out there with claims. And if graphene has these wild claims, people might be a little bit more cynical too as a result of being exposed to a lot of odd news.
Yeah, exactly, because it becomes word of mouth through social media. And then, whether it's valid. It's one of you said something that is really important to point out, I think, for our listeners, which is that one of the things that, the foundation of Nixene publishing is to focus on the science and not the hype.
Yeah. We try and stick with the facts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Things that people trust so they can, can know that this isn't just an opinion.
Yeah.
It's valid.
Yeah,
so we have
but
the science.
we better stop there because we're in danger of turning something interesting into a commercial for us.
Okay, stop. We've covered the hype.
Yeah, let's quit while we're ahead. But fascinating stuff, Debbie. I think that's something worth exploring in the future. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be back with another video. We'll be talking about graphene and all its amazing applications.
Sounds like a good thing to do. Yeah. Thanks again, Debbie. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.